Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Truth Will Set You Free show. This show is brought to you by TLBTV and the Liberty Beacon Project. I'm your host, Linda Diane Wattley, and as you can see, I am very happy with my guest today. I am so thankful to have Denise Alexander Pyle on our show today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, and I'm so grateful to be on your show today.
See, I didn't even tell anybody anything about you. I just wanted to say hi first because I'm excited. She is an amazing person. She is a person that really cares about people. She's an attorney, and I can't imagine how she has time to care about other people and do the things that she do for people. She studied law, and one of her main areas is helping families. And if you want somebody on your team, she is definitely someone you want to be there. She's written articles for family law, and she's from Marion, Indiana. She is a person who is so thankful for life itself. She loves her family, her grandchildren. You said great-grandchildren?
No great-grandchildren, just grandchildren. Yeah, let's not get there too quickly there. We got
I was getting ready to say, how could that be?
We got teenagers. We don't want greats yet.
And she is so blessed to have a great husband. The wind beneath her wings, we have to include that. She is an author, and I feel like she's an advocate, a humanitarian. She has written a book that I can't wait to discuss because there's something about this book that reminds people there's certain truths in life that will not go away, whether they're talked about or acted on, but they're not going away. And one of my favorite biblical stories was Moses. When Moses came with those tablets, Moses had an attitude too. I will not serve a God who keep me in bondage. But I'll never forget that about him. But what he bought was the 10 Commandments. And my guest today, Denise, has written an amazing book about the 10 Commandments. And what I like about this book is you can't be left out. Even from the very beginning, she draws you in and she takes you on an adventure to self-realization, self-improvement, self-acknowledgement. Taking responsibility of your space on earth is really what her book is about. Her book is about the 10 Commandments. And tell them the title of your book. I think you'll say it better.
The Power of 10, a guide to living the 10 Commandments and the Golden Rule in modern times. And the 0 is in parentheses for the 10 and the 1.
That's what I love about it, because we are, like I always believe in the micro and macro. And we're responsible for that micro because that macro depends on that. And that's what this book is really about. It's about people realizing that the 10 Commandments can save this world.
It's the rules for the road.
And the thing about it is, I like the way you take each commandment and it's so modernized, but yet it's ancient at the same time.
Everything old is new and vice versa.
And I was wondering, okay, because I have an attorney friend, he said there's nothing gray. It's either black or white. And I was just curious, you know, with you being an attorney, how did you become an author?
Well, this particular book, God channeled and gave to me 8 years ago, and in its first draft. And then it took me 6 years before I could sit down and make it in a form that it didn't sound like a sermon. It sounded like something people wanted to read. But I've been writing since I was a kid. I published poetry. As a lawyer, I'm always writing, and my briefs and things were always written well. So I've always been an author, but never an author of a book to give to the world.
But this is definitely a book for the world. The thing about it is, your upbringing, you was Jewish, you said?
I was raised Jewish. I consider myself a New Way Jew. I was raised Jewish. From the time I was 14, I studied metaphysics because I was a seeker, sort of, and my rabbi used to call me the wandering Jew because of it. But my husband is Quaker, and I go to church with him, and I had an experience that actually gave me a vision of Jesus during Hurricane Irma last year. That's another story for another time. But I said I would give testimony that he is there to guide the way. You can get there. The difference is, as long as you are in love and unity, that's the Christ consciousness. That's the path. And I believe that we can all get there if we follow the basic rules. It does, and you can get there in your own congregation. And that's my whole premise. We have to come together under the universal truth and not divide ourselves because we choose a different church in which to worship those principles.
And this is actually your first book, though?
It's my actually first book. I've got a couple that are out there. I have chapters done on, but this is the first one.
So why do you think it's the 10 Commandments that was given to you? Because you also said it's the golden rule. So,
well, there's one in the 10. The golden rule is sort of the overview. It's like the one God. It's the one rule. If you follow nothing else and treat others as you would wish to be treated, provided you learn to love yourself, it'll solve all the problems of the world because it's about love first. Then love of God, love of self, love of others. And that's, to me, the Trinity.
wow. You also mentioned that the 10 Commandments was a parallel of the tree of life.
The tree of life is the mystical Jewish teachings from Kabbalah refers to the tree of life. The Torah and the 10 Commandments have all been referred to as the tree of life. But metaphysically and spiritually and biblically, they all apply to the same thing, but on a different plane. The tree of life is the metaphysical or spiritual depiction of how Earth and the universe come together. And you go through from the spirit, and then I have to put my hands up because that's how I talk. You start out with the source, with God, and each of the attributes go down to and through the tree until you're rooted in the foundation of Earth. And that's the structure that explains each of the aspects that are important to us from a metaphysical standpoint, but they correlate with each of the commandments. So when I wrote my book, the theme of the tree sphere correlates with each of the commandments, and there's no accident to that. They do. The meanings are, I mean, they really do create a structure. And I've created 22 commitment cards that I'm going to put out with the book. One for each of the commandments and one for each of the spheres on the tree of life. So really 2 for each commandment and 2 for the golden rule, which there's an invisible sphere on the tree of life. There's 22 paths, 10 spheres, and an invisible one, which is the intuition, it's knowledge, it's really our connection to the universe. And to me, that particular commitment, when you come down to it, is intuition and oneness. Those are the words that go with the golden rule.
Wow. But what is it about it? You know, you wrote this book with urgency. What is your greatest concern at this time for humanity?
Because the tree of life, the 10 Commandments are our way of keeping individually in the light and collectively in the light, because we have choices to stay in the light. We are all, a combination of right and wrong, good and evil. It's the choices we make that keep us in the light. Right now, darkness is spreading over this planet very strong. We all feel it, we see the divisiveness. And I'm afraid there's been other dark ages in the history of this planet, and I'm afraid we're heading into one now, particularly when we have technology that can destroy the planet. And we are doing it. The chemical companies are doing it. The food companies are doing it. Monsanto's being sued for the fact that the fertilizer that they sell to all of us is really cancerous. It's happening everywhere. It's happening in Washington. Everything is being done for a few at the benefit of the individual and the planet, because there's no balance. I believe the Ten Commandments is the balance we need. It gives us all the measurements to say, are we in the light or are we in the darkness? And if we do it in ourselves and we start applying it, we're not going to accept it for our government, our country, our family, or the world.
So what would be the first step people should take to head in the direction of making that difference?
First thing they have to do is get in control of their own life. They need to lead their life instead of let their life lead them. They need to find out that and accept the fact that they are a co-creator with God. God gave them the gift to create on this planet. And in order to do that, you have to recognize and love yourself. And you have to realize your body is a temple in which you're housing a God presence, so you got to treat it well. You have to recognize that if I'm housing a God aspect and you're housing a God aspect, then we have to respect each other and the boundaries for each other, because we are all one and in unity with God. That's the first commandment. And until we all are on that place, you can't get to the next commandment. And that's the starting point.
Wow. What do you actually mean by dark?
Well, I think that when we are controlled by greed and ego, where people are connecting to things that don't fill your soul, that leave you empty, everything on earth is borrowed. We don't take anything with us at the end of the day. So if you are in some way interfering with the flow that everybody can experience the joy and feed their soul, and you're keeping it and hoarding it for yourself, that is the darkness. I mean, the movies like Star Wars depicted it, and right now we're seeing it on so many levels. And I believe it's dark forces that are keeping us divided, because as long as we don't come together and issues are being used to keep us divided because they're religious or emotional, we don't see that we have the same enemy. And we do have an enemy. It's those who want to take and not give back. How many billionaires do we need to have on the planet? How much do you need to live? You should be rewarded for what you contribute. There should be value added. And if we're in the first commandment, honoring ourselves, we want to see our value. We want to be rewarded for what we do. But there's a difference between being rewarded and hoarding. And that takes away from the universe. So, you look at nature. I wrote an article today, what I called the beavers, the birds, and the bees. Beavers make dams to protect their young and to raise their family. In doing so, they create lakes, they create ponds, and those ponds become communities for the rest of nature. They may be stopping the flow of water, but they're creating a village in doing so that feeds everybody who otherwise would be starved down the road because the flow of water isn't going. We have an obligation, if we make money, we can enjoy the benefits of our labors. Absolutely, that there should be incentive. But there comes a point where what you're taking out of the stream needs to be put back to create the village, the town. I listened to Jeff Bezos is now the richest man in the world, founder of Amazon, who's selling my book. So he's worth $150 billion. And now he's creating a trucking company, the Green Trucks, and is soliciting for people to be their own bosses to run the trucks. And I said, if he's building factories in the country to build the trucks, to employ the people, so they have the jobs and the money to buy the merchandise, so that there's truck drivers are delivering it. Then he's taking the money to build a community. But if he's keeping the money and someone else is making the trucks, and another friend, he's not giving it back. I said, that's what I don't know before. It's not my position to judge, but my position is it should be flowing some way, not going in the hands of one person. In the old days, there were benevolent despots who, for a period of time, there might have been a country that people fared well. But the next king after the benevolent one may not have been so benevolent and liked the power and the greed and the ego. We cannot have anybody who is in a position to think it's okay to hoard and not give back. And again, being rewarded is fine, but billionaires, come on. That's not light, unless you're using the money. I'm hoping there's a billionaire out there that's going to say, I've been wondering why God allowed me to create these billions. I now get it. I need to take what I need and rebuild the infrastructure of our planet. I need to help create jobs so people will have self-worth and can go to work. I need to create schools so people who can be educated. And I think that's in the 10 Commandments.
Another thing that I share with you too, that people seem to not realize this, but there do seem to be potential for a revolution. Why do you sense that?
Because there's a division between those who have power, those who see that there are people who have a lot, while children are starving, are not getting educated, drugs are taking hold in the inner cities. The money that was supposed to go into the inner cities over the last 40 years never really went to do what it was supposed to do. We have a Congress that become millionaires when they leave office. They don't have the same social service system that we have, or medical system that we have. They have lifetime pensions when they leave office, and they support the agenda of the big corporations. And then, but there's corporate welfare, and the real revolution are the people who've been paying the taxes and are saying, wait a minute, you're stealing our money on this end, and you're using it to give hush money to people so they'll vote for you instead of giving them money so that they can educate themselves and work, and which is what we would be supportive of. But no, what you're doing is you're paying the insurance companies the money so that they will get health care, but we're the ones paying for it, and yet you're hoarding billions and billions on the side. So you have dissatisfaction among the workers who are paying the bill. You have dissatisfaction among people who see the fat cats on the other side who aren't paying their fair share. And then, you have those who are in power who have the guns and the power to get rid of us all, because maybe they think the population on the planet is too big.
Wow. And then you also mentioned about immigrants coming here. You were saying there was a time that they wanted to be like us, but now they don't even want to be like us. They just want what we have. So where does that coincide with the growth and light?
Well, we were a beacon of light, and I think we have to recognize that somebody's been dividing us, that they have been diverting who the real enemy is. And they use issues such as abortion to divide the population. And they say one party is pro and one party is not. Well, that's not true, because they use the social issues. There isn't a religion that has total agreement on when life begins. So if religions can't agree, in the Jewish religion, life didn't begin until after the first trimester. There are those who believe life begins at conception. There are those who believe that God breathed life into Adam so that life doesn't begin until you take your first breath. That's when the soul enters the body. So how can government control this issue. When we can't agree religious wise, and so therefore it's not something government should be dealing with. Just like when our country was formed, 13 colonies practiced at least 5 or 6 different religions, and some colonies had state religions. They agreed in order to come together as a nation, there could not be a state religion. God reigns supreme over all of us, and that's all we needed. And so therefore, there are certain issues that they use to divide us that can't be part of government.
And another thing, how do the 10 Commandments come into play with a person that's a racist?
Well, they're obviously not living the golden rule or the first commandment, because they obviously don't recognize that the light of life is in each of us, and you have no more love and light and life in your soul, in body, than the next person. And the minute you think that, you're already violating the second commandment, which is thou shalt have no other gods before me. And that's the thee that we are all a part of. There's a lot of false idols out there.
And see, that's the thing, the reason why I sense a revolution is because they're setting us up where they're going to need our own military to control people going against each other. All these killings of, just because you're different. I mean, eventually the people that they are killing are eventually going to turn back and defend themselves.
Well, there's a reason a lot of people, the one reason why people want the second amendment to stay in place, because it's the government that we don't trust. And therefore, if they take away our guns, then we have no ability to defend ourselves. And that's really the basis for the Second Amendment, because we recognize that there can be tyrannical governments. And I would hope that the military would not shoot their innocent citizens because of a tyrannical government. But we all know there's always, guns for hire. And therefore, but I think, and this is the urgency of my message is, I don't want a revolution. I want an evolution. I want us to evolve to be what we were meant to be, so that our light shines so bright that all the cockroaches run into the woodwork. That's really what I want to do.
Right.
And we're all sparklers, but now we need to be arsonists. We need to set the flame so bright that we will not tolerate darkness of any kind.
And it's a lot of people with that like mind, and hopefully it can just like clear out some of this negativity that's in the atmosphere right now.
Because there's an old saying, my enemy's enemy is my friend. Well, we actually have the same enemy. And therefore, when I say we, I'm saying the groups that are fighting right now, that they're painting as, as left or right or red or blue. I'm a passionate purple. I believe in compassionate common sense. We have to prioritize what we can fix with the resources available, but we have to do it with heart. Our brains can figure out how to divide things up, but we need fairness, spelled F-A-I-R, and not necessarily F-A-R-E, because the fair is going as much to one side as the other.
Well, just like you also mentioned too, one of the problems and concerns that I have is what life is teaching children today. Like you said, I don't think it's too many parents have yet to even mention the 10 Commandments to their children. So, that foundation is creating the future as well. So, how do we get things regrounded? Because even children, they looking at power comes in immorality.
Well, look at all the images. Look at the lifestyle of the celebrities, the athletes, and what they do. And that's the example. And they think it's fun. They think it's glamorous, and the songs that are being sung and the messages in them, because they don't have a lot of hope. And unless we give them the hope where they can see the glory and the love of the light, and that the rewards are really much more filling, because things don't make you feel good after a few days. You get something new, you played with it. Look at a little kid when they get a new toy. They play with it for a while and then they're done with it. That's the effect of things on all of us. But things that feed our soul, I mean, I love a beautiful sunset, a beautiful rainbow. I have to run out and go see it. A lightning storm. That fills my soul, and that doesn't cost anything.
Well, you definitely, when you wrote that book, you give us something to think about for each commandment. You know, like honor thy mother and thy father, honor thy father and thy mother. A lot of people didn't understand that it's more than just being obedient to them. And you share a perspective that most people don't talk about. Share with us that take on honor thy father and thy mother.
Well, first it's about respecting our elders and teachers, because we learn from the mistakes of others. History is there to teach us. And yes, we'll make our own mistakes, but when we judge and look at our parents, we also are going to be teachers to our own children. So it's a two-way street. We're also about balance. It takes the male and female aspect of everything to create. So it's honoring the feminine and the masculine and looking for the balance in all things, so that we can be teachers and we can come together and recognize it takes two in so many ways. It takes love, and it takes nurturing, and it takes our parents to show us the way, and we also have to honor them when they don't show us the way, because they're still giving us a lesson. It's a lesson that we take with us when our parents weren't so wonderful, that we don't want to be like them. So we honor the message that it brings to us, because without both of them, we wouldn't be here today.
And you also emphasize how it also includes our elderly people. They're not getting no just dues either.
There's no respect.
Of honor.
I mean, in the other cultures before us, the wisdom was passed by the elders, and children had to go sit with the elders and learn from them. You know, how many children take time to spend with their grandparents today and recognize all the wisdom they have to offer?
Another thing that I like was your take on the wrath of God. A lot of people don't understand that it's consequences when you choose to live, like you were saying, in your shadow self.
Absolutely. And we, being God's self, we punish our own selves with guilt and fear and retribution. And we think we aren't deserving when we make mistakes. So you still have to have forgiveness too. God was a God of forgiveness, but you have to recognize everything, for every action, there's a reaction. And if we get too much in the darkness, hey, the Mother Nature in conjunction with God has plenty of diseases and earthquakes and fires and hurricanes that will let us know that we're affecting the balance here.
Wow. And you was commenting about Adam and Eve and what part they actually played in bringing us into coming into the light of who we are. And most people kind of look at it like it's a negative experience of punishment, but you have a different take on that.
I think that in spirit, in order to know, you can be, and in the garden you were, you just accepted there, you had the food, the pleasure, everything was perfect, but you were existing, but you didn't know why. And I think when you ate the bite of the apple, you went into, well, now I want to know why. I actually know how I can create, but you're still trying to get that feeling that brings you back to the state of just being. But during the path, your soul gets to taste, see, hear, feel, and now on the planet, when you're in the knowing state of you're experiencing, you're taking with you something that you don't have when you're back in the garden. It's this, your soul has an imprint of what it's like to know these things and not just be one with these things.
Because you kind of pretty much look at duality pretty much, like you're saying that they're intertwined, your light and your darkness. What do you actually mean by that?
Well, I think that to come to this plane and live, we are light beings, we are invisible source, our souls we don't see, but we are physical, and we create these temples, but they're made out of physical material, and they're the chemicals that make up the planet. They have density. The density is the darkness, but they have addictive qualities that make you want to get stuck here. That's the material world. And God is saying, okay, if you're going to come here, people, back to the second commandment, don't get stuck worshiping the things that physically give you life, because that's what keeps you stuck and not in the joy and the light. We all are an embodiment of both, but we need to choose light at all times, because our ego is our shadow side, it's our darkness. Our greed is an aspect of ego because it's addicting. I like what I can do with all this stuff. But it has to be in balance so that you're always in the flow, because the more you give, the more you really receive. And it's just that you don't know it until you're in the flow of it.
And that just reminds me of what you were saying about the greatest sin that we commit. A lot of people really don't tune into what it actually is. You mentioned what the greatest sin is. It's like coming here
and not being the best you can be, because that's really what we're all here to do, and we have the path to do it. We go from I am the Lord your God, our oneness with God. We go through no other gods before us, so we don't get stuck in the planet. Not misusing the name of God is not blaming others, taking responsibility for our lives. Particularly, we don't go to war with people in the name of God. Hello, that's like, it doesn't make sense. We keep the Sabbath holy. We have to make sacred space. We have to reflect and renew. We have to look at what we did the last week. Are we living in the light? Okay, what can I do the next week to go better? We need to meditate to find out that the reinforcement you need is inside of you. But if you don't take time to hear that voice and meditate, you don't hear the voice. It's also a time to commune with family. And when you pray in a group, your prayers are multiplied. So that's why we worship together. But a worship day should have both private family time, quiet time, and group time. We talked about honoring our mothers and fathers. We don't kill, not just, we don't take the life of anything without purpose. I mean, you can defend yourself, but it's about killing dreams, killing spirit. Our thoughts create. It's also about honoring the things that give us life. When we eat meat, we say a prayer to honor the sacrifice they made for us. This is respecting life. We need to create. We came here to live, so live your life and don't destroy the life you were given. We don't commit adultery because we have to learn to honor our commitments and the promises we make to one another. And I had a woman I met with today, a divorced woman. Her husband wants a divorce after 40-some years of marriage, and she's committed her whole life to him. And we walked through the 10 Commandments. We walked through my book today, and it set her on a path. And I said, we have to make our promises valuable in all things. We make commitments when we take a job. We make commitments when we raise a family. This is about keeping the purity in the promises we make, because we make promises to ourselves that we need to keep. And if we can't keep promises to ourselves, we can't keep promises to others. And it's about we were meant to be familiar. We were meant to have a family to raise our children, which is part of the commandment, because we need a mother and a father. And our society, has allowed it to dissipate. And we have to recognize we need to be families. We need to come together. We owe that to each other, even if we create different kinds of families. We have to come together. We don't steal, we give. It's about justice and charity. Our whole economy today is one that's declining because of the theft. I, as a lawyer, have watched where judges used to be able to do justice. You'd come to balance the scales where somebody was stealing or did something wrong and took something what wasn't belonged to them. In a divorce setting, a judge could divide the property to compensate for the wrongdoing of another. Over the last 40 years, all the laws in family law have written so that a woman after 30-some or 40-some years of marriage can wind up destitute, because men who were getting divorced 40 years ago changed the laws for themselves. That's true in the state of Indiana, and it's never been fixed. So our laws have also been written over the last 40 years, so corporations can steal. They can file bankruptcy and not pay the pensions of their workers. That wasn't permitted 40 years ago. Look at what happened to Kmart. Look what happened to General Motors. Look what happened. I mean, my husband he worked as a salaried employee and took less money because he was supposed to get health insurance for life. They took that away. I'm saying the laws have been changed to take away, from the corporations. The banks who funded all these leveraged buyouts, they got their money, but the workers didn't. This is and judges used to be able to say, oh no, you're not getting away with that. But not today. We shouldn't lie in anything. Integrity and truth is what relationships are built on. Today on the internet, who knows what the truth is? Because any answer you want to have to an issue to support a position, you can find on the internet to support the position. So more than ever now, we need discernment to be able to trust our gut and our intuition. If it doesn't seem right, if it's too good to be true, it probably is not true, and you're being deceived because they want what you have, whether it's your vote or your money. They want what you have because they want to stay in power. And you want to, and if you are true to yourself and honest with yourself and build trust relationships, you have to do it on a local community basis, because who do you know to trust in Washington? You don't know them from Adam, but you know your city council member. You should know the people who live in your neighborhood, and people know who's trustworthy and who's not. And you do what they used to do in the old days, start shunning them. Say, nobody should do business with this person because they're not in integrity. They may go to church on Sunday, but on Monday, they're trying to steal from you by being dishonest in their business practices. So, and then to get into do not covet your neighbor's belongings, it's really about finding the joy in your own life. We were here to live our life and our path. If you're busy worrying about what somebody else's path looks like and what they've acquired, then you're not living your life. If you're standing in integrity, you put your integrity and you in your life, and how you affect what somebody else has is by standing together with everybody else in your community who's on the path of light and not allowing darkness to exist in your community, and let the light spread.
Because we are really at a very dark place in the United States right now. I mean, I was just wondering because, the voting issue, if it's not, like a clean-cut, pure moment, how do we ever really get a grip on this dark cloud that's just...
You know what we need to do? We need everybody, regardless of what party you're in, to find the most honest, trustworthy person in your neighborhood, and regardless of what party they're running on, send them to Washington and get rid of everybody all at once. Clean slate. Put people you know that have integrity and trust. Congress we could take over. The Senate, it's going to take a few election terms to get there because there are only a third of them run in every election year. But because right now, those we do elect some good people and they go to Washington, but the powers tell them if you want to have any say in what we do, if you want to do anything for your community, you do what we tell you to do, or you're not going to get a good committee. They dangle carrots. And it's been done for a long time. They dangle carrots so that nothing changes. I was in Washington in 1992 and 1993, and I witnessed it firsthand, and I couldn't get out of there fast enough. I said, this is not my time. My time is to come when the revolution really sounds so I can help pick up the pieces. But I don't want to, I'm trying to prevent a violent revolution. I want a peaceful revolution. That's why I say it's a peaceful evolution. But we need to do it all at once. And it needs to be an ambush.
Wow. And it's really important right now.
But it needs to be across the board. That's why we need to see, I have always voted integrity. I ran for office as a Republican in the days when moderate Republicans were socially conscious, when abortion was on the Republican platform, not on the pro-choice, was a Republican issue back in the 80s. It wasn't until 1980 when Phyllis Schlafly wrote in and co-opted the platform of the Republican Party that the social issues got pushed to the far right. I've always been a centrist. I believe in recognizing and respecting people's choices, but I also recognize that there needs to be balance, that we have to be able to recognize that extremes of any kind do not create compromise. If you imagine a football field, in the old days, the parties might be on the 40-yard line on each side of the center, the 50-yard line, and we compromise. Maybe this issue, social justice requires us to go on your 40. Maybe we don't have the resources today, so we need to be a little more practical or let the states work on this issue. Because it really used to be individual rights, states' rights, federal government. If we're doing a good job, we don't need the federal government to step in. But the federal government has taken the money now and given it to who they wanted to. It's not going for the people. So we have to realize that the majority of us are fighting for the same thing. We just don't know it. And so we have to listen to leaders from both sides of the alleged wall. It's an invisible wall that they've created. That's the real wall dividing this country. It's invisible and it's fake. That's the fake news. And we need leaders from both sides to say, you know what? We're going to tell our people, you tell your people, but we're going to get on the stage together and say, we really are not fighting against each other. We're fighting against the establishment. The establishment that my generation and your generation marched against when we were young is the same establishment. Unfortunately, they've gotten bigger, more powerful, and have aligned to more darkness. And we thought we could get into the system and change it, but by and large, we got into raising our families, we got into working, we got caught into the mundane, we got bombarded with non-spiritual messages, and we slowly lost our moral compass. It's time to get it back and take back our country and then be the beacon of light for the world so they do have a country that they can fashion a model after, that they all want to be like.
Wow, because I like that saying you said the opposite of love is not hatred, but it's indifference.
It's indifference. You know what? Today I realize that you may not view yourself as complicit in what's going on, but if we're complacent, we are complicit by our complacency. And so now I'm saying, you know what? At this time in my life, I'm going to put the bullseye on my back and go out there and tell it like it is. The truth will set us all free, and you know that.
Right. But you can see that the mind is being conditioned that to be of good heart and more morals is useless.
Well, it's useless when they give you a little money and say, gee, we agree with you, and then they really don't do it. The joke, the sad part, the really sad part about, when Trump enforced the immigration policy with this I can't, my mind went blank, but just we're going to the letter of the law. Those laws have been in effect for a long time. They have been being enforced without tolerance for a long time. We were not aware of it because people hate Trump so much, they exposed it. It's been going on for years, the policy. The laws were in the book. Our immigration laws and policies have been horrible for a long time, but they don't do anything about it. So the nice thing that came out of it is we now see there is a problem. We're doing something about it, but it's been going on. It didn't just start a month ago. It didn't start 2 years ago. It started 30 years ago.
Wow. So
something good comes out of something bad. We actually are woken up to something that's bad that's been going on because we don't like the person now who's doing it, but he's not the first person to do it. So we have to own up that we've been complacent, because when you like the person who's doing bad, or you don't want to change the person who's doing bad, you ignore when they're doing bad.
So what kind of feedback you're getting from your book?
Everybody who has read it has loved it, and it doesn't matter. Everybody will say, I may not agree with everything because it depends on your point of view. If you're coming from a Jewish point of view, a Catholic point of view, a Christian point of view, a metaphysical point of view, someone metaphysical may say, oh, there's a little too much, Bible in there for me, or someone may say, I don't get this metaphysical part, but the underlying truth resonates. Because if you boil away all the dogma, all the ideology to just the basic truth that we all live under, it rings out, and they love it, and they say, I can't believe it's so simple. So the feedback has been wonderful. I just have to get it out there. The feedback's been great, but the marketing is me, as a self-publisher, and it takes money. And the first thing I've done is getting the radio tour. Today I got listed on the top 12 for Spirited Women's reading list. So I'm hoping that will help get the book out there, because I just want to get the message. I want it for everybody. I think every high school student should read this book before they get out into the real world and say, this is what you have to live by. We need to educate people, and it doesn't have to be my book, but the principles of my book, the essence of it. It needs to be resonating everywhere. These are the rules for the road. Whether you believe that Moses was given them on Mount Sinai when he went and spent 40 days on the mountain with God, or actually Moses did go up on the mountain, but it was some extraterrestrial from a higher life force that came to our planet to help us evolve better. And there are people who believe that, that's really, there's other life forms and other planets out there, and we're not really at a high enough evolutionary period that they want to deal with us, because we'll capture them, we'll cut them up, we'll dissect them, we'll put them in prison, we won't hear what they have to say. It doesn't matter. These are the rules, however we got them. It's what humanity needs, because if you look at the way everybody else behaves in nature, they're in balance with one another. We're the ones who are destroying the balance.
Wow.
And the Ten Commandments tells us how not to. It tells us how to live in balance. If we see their meaning in everything we do, if that's the looking glass that we're looking through the prism of the Ten Commandments and the Golden Rule, and the Golden Rule first and foremost, if you look at through that prism, the answer to how you choose light is very clear, because you can't choose darkness when you look at things with light shining on them for what they really are.
Why do you think it is so much killing?
Because you have to value life. If you don't value your life, if you're not seeing that you are God and you have a gift and your life is important, it's easy to take away life because you don't see value in your own life.
And that's why it's important to give it to the children early. Because this is beginning to be a lifestyle. It's like they like to jump in there and do it too.
How many kids go to Sunday school today and learn the Ten Commandments as they did in our generation? After World War II, there was a little period where people were coming off the war and they were living in a spirituality of trying to create peace. They created families. People went to church. They were grateful for the end of the war. Unfortunately, the industrial military complex, the corporations, the people with power and money were out there getting hold on us because we have gifts. Our technology is a gift. It's how we use those gifts, whether we do them for light or do them for darkness, because they will destroy us. The bigger the gift, the bigger the ability to destroy us. And we need to, and I think, oil is probably one of the worst things that we ever, brought into our economy, as much because it was buried underneath for a reason. It's the ultimate of darkness. And our whole economy is founded still on oil. And there are technologies. I mean, we need heavy machinery today to feed the earth. I mean, you can't grow crops to feed the earth without having the tractors and the combines and things today. But we have the technology and the knowledge to create clean energy. But the power that controls us all controls the oil and controls the resources that keep feeding their coffers. So they don't want it. So it's just, so it's really, that's what's changed. We've moved away from the sense of serenity, and we long for that time, that post-World War II, when we were babies, when we left our doors open and our car doors unlocked, and you could leave a purse in the car and nobody would touch it, because we were close to the brink then, and we were grateful that we weren't. We wanted our children to know God and be grateful. And every year post-World War II, the darkness has grown exponentially. But so has the light. But because the darkness has the power to destroy the light in our planet in one fell swoop, we just have to really take charge. I have hope. I have faith in the light. Because if not, it will come back again, but just not in this humanity's lifetime. And I don't want to see that happen. I want us to evolve to be the best we are, because the children of the light are going to go back to God anyway.
So basically, you're using that term dark. I remember you mentioned a black hole. Is that real?
Well, if you look in the universe, life is created. The life gets sucked into a black hole and comes out life again on the other side. It happens in space. So, I mean, everything has a shadow side. Everything has a good and bad. Everything is negative and positive. There's polarities in everything. I mean, energy that we are created with has negative and positive charges. It's the way it is. I just like to think of the positive as the light, The negative is the dark. It's the polarity. It's how I describe it as light and dark. There was a book years ago, Children of Darkness, Children of Light. And in that book, the children of darkness were those who were caught in the greed and ego in the material world and were hoarding it to the expense of the children of light. It was a prophecy written by a religious political advisor, Reinhold Niebuhr was his name. And I looked at it, and I look at today, and I said, oh my God, the children of light need to spark bright.
Wow, you're definitely on point with it. If somebody would like to get in touch with you or read your book, how do they contact you?
Well, the book is on Amazon. It's on Kindle books. It's on Balboa Press, my publisher. My web page is very simple, denisealexanderpyle.com. It'll link you to Balboa Press's site to buy the book. You can email me and contact me through the website, and it will get you into my business law email, which is actually the best way to reach me, which is denise@dapylelaw.com, because that's where you're going to end up. When I respond to you, it's going to be on that address. So I might as well give it out now.
I really appreciate you sharing your gifts and talents and knowledge and wisdom and spirit, because we are at a critical time in this world right now that we need all the light that we can get.
We're going to come together. I'm working with some people. As I said, I want to create an event that really sparks a movement that comes together. So I need to create a visionary team, and because it's got to be a chorus, it's not about soloists anymore. It's about a big choir.
Wow, you're right too. The collective have to come together. Well, Denise, you are on the Truth Will Set You Free show. Give us a truth to remember you by.
Love is the overriding purpose for all of our lives. We're here to love and create, and we can't do that if the darkness takes over.
Well said. I appreciate you for coming on our show today.
Thank you.
When you build this and they will come, you got to let me know.
Oh, are you kidding? You'll be there on the stage with everybody else, and you'll be televising it on your podcast. You'll have a whole month of shows to go out to send the message out.
And give us the title of that book again.
The Power of 10, A Guide to Living the 10 Commandments and the Golden Rule in Modern Times.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Blessings to you and everyone listening and watching.